may be, in other words, they're speculation, but the data is fairly good. And interestingly enough, he came on some of our Cal State archaeological digs. So here's some pictures of him on our digs, which we had here. These are all things from our expeditions that he put in here. All that came for where the scrolls were found along the Dead Sea, and all these things. So this is a rip-off book, but it's good for airports, and the publishers might have read this one because it's on their level. Because these guys write airport books that you read on airplanes and things. But that's good to begin with that. So I'm just giving you that as an example. I hope that the tapes that I'm making in this class never get out in the public. Because if these guys see what I say about them, they're likely to send their assassins after me. So, what you say in a class are two different things. This is sort of show and tell. And just to finish this off, and talk about what I'm going to talk about today, this is why it's so important. These are my 3 copies of Josephus. And they're the same book. But, aside from scribblings like that, all through it like that, and then marks on pages so I can get back to it quick for footnotes and things like that. This is a book I've used in this class for some years. It gets pretty, it's actually falling to bits, as you see. This is a good page here. I like this page here. This is a good page. And then here's I don't know how this got so ripped up here, but this is a kind of vaster, pirated edition of Josephus. What I'm trying to say is he's that important. You have to go through him with a fine-tooth comb. You say, why? What's that got to do with the New Testament? Because the New Testament is building upon him, that's why. And insofar as, it's agreeing or disagreeing with him, there's issues to be dealt with, you follow me? And also, you can go deeper into certain matters just mentioned in passing in the Gospel. So, if you don't have that background, it's like saying, you know all about Richard Nixon without having the Pentagon Papers. If you remember those days and all those scandals. Not that I thought the Pentagon Papers were very interesting, but it's that kind of thing. So, you say, well, I can't read all that, Professor Eisenman. Well, I know. I'm going to sort of pick through it for you today and tomorrow, next day, and then move on to it. But that's why it's so important. Now, if you have a Jewish war, which I see you do, can I? Right. You have here a preface. You have Herod's predecessors. Herod's rise to power. Well, that's important, isn't it? How can you even look at something like Herod tried to kill all the Jewish children without even knowing who he is? You're at third base and you haven't even started at the home plate for the single to get you first. You have no idea who Herod is. So what's the significance of having made a statement like that? He's king of the Jews. Well, it turns out he isn't king of the Jews. That the Jews hated. That he was a Roman puppet put on them by Roman power. I told you something about this last time. But in any case, he was an Arab, actually. And I'm not wiggling out there. Josephus will show you that he's an Arab. He's a Greco-Arab who may have been Judaized at some point. It's hard to say because he's also very interested in Greco-Roman Hellenistic religious practices, and he decorates temples wherever he finds them, whether they're Greco-Roman, Hellenistic, or Jewish. Doesn't matter to him. He knows he gets benefit from giving gifts to all these kinds of institutions. And you say, well, how did he get power if the Jews didn't like him? Because the Romans conquered the country and put him in power. That's how. So, how do I know that? From Josephus. And now this is a short version of Josephus. This is a long version of Josephus. There's two books from Josephus that have survived. One's an encyclopedic one, one's a short synopsis one. This is the short synopsis one. The longer version is called, what's this ugly piece of toilet paper or something sticking out of here? Oh, it's just a marker that's been shredded with use. Pardon. This is on the page of the Wars of the Jews. Oh, it's about the star prophecy, which is really important because it has to do with the star over Bethlehem and so on. Anyway, there's a longer work. This is the collected pirated works of Josephus. How could they pirate works of Josephus? Oh, because he's not alive anymore. So we can't sue them for having published his works. But the translator could sue them. So what have they done? They've taken a 17th century, 1600s translation from the time of the Pilgrims and pirated it. So that guy can't sue them. This is William Whiston from 1600 something Isaac Newton's time that they've taken the collected works of Josephus. People were working on it back then, so they can't get sued. So that's what you usually see is. But this is called the Antiquities of the Jews. It starts at the very beginning with Adam and takes you all the way down to the start of the war against Rome. And it's in 20 volumes. Well, it's not really 20 volumes. A volume really, at that time, is a chapter in our time. A long chapter. But it's 20 books it's called, but it's really, I would say it's, you know, it's about a 450-page book or a 500-page book with 20 chapters. So, you know, and the first 13 are not unless you want to read the Bible all over again, are not really too interesting, except to show how someone in the first century would have looked on the Bible. So he gives you the whole Bible, stories from his perspective in the first 12 chapters. And takes you down to the history of what we're interested in chapters 13 to 20. And a lot of that parallels the war that I just pinched off of you. I still got it, I think. I'm going to use it in a minute. A lot of that parallels the war, but it's a little more detailed. And there's a little more information. So that's called Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews. Hope this isn't too boring.